Oh, friends, good morning. Welcome back to the Daily Six. Would you get Joshua chapter 5 open? It's time to get into the city of Jericho, and we're going to see God's miracle. It isn't going to make a stitch of sense, but it means something for you and me. Joshua chapter 5. Get it open. Come on with me. You know, in modern times, our cities are not surrounded by fortified walls the way they were back in the Old Testament era. And things have changed. You know, aerial warfare has made walls pointless in our cities. Even back in the 1860s, when there was this conflict between North and South here in America, things like rivers that didn't have bridges like this would needed protection. But you can understand, as the people of Israel, it's now their time to take the city of Jericho. They've got to contend with, there's a fact that this very fortified wall around this city. What's God going to do? So they're approaching the city of Jericho, ready to go, ready to see what God is going to do. When an interesting encounter occurs, you got Joshua chapter 5 open? Look at it in verse 13. Records that when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and he saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. And Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or are you for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." This is an important data point. We're talking all last week, this week, how God is not being imperialistic. He is not leading the people of Israel to take possession of a land just because. But there is, in fact, a judgment God's bringing on these people. And this angel doesn't want that for them any more than he wants success for the Israelites. The Lord has a level playing field in his eyes that is righteous and just. And so the angel's going to give Joshua a message. Here's how you're going to take Jericho. Look at it in verse 1, chapter 6. Records that Jericho was tightly shut up because of the Israelites. No one went out, no one came in. In other words, there's this fortified wall and they are completely secure. In that day, they don't have drones, they don't have aircraft, they don't have other ways to get inside that city, they don't have cannons. It's all going to be hand to hand, so they're fortified. What are they going to do? Well, verse 2, the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I've delivered Jericho into your hands. I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its kings and its fighting men. So here's what you're going to do." Verse 3, "You're going to march around the city once with all the armed men, and do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. And on the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets. And when you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have all the people give a loud shout. And then the wall of the city will collapse, and the people will go up, every man straight in." Do you recognize this makes not a stitch of sense in terms of anything military strategy? Joshua, get your worship team. Get the Ark of the Covenant, which we learned on Monday represents God's law, his word, his miracles, his provision. This box that contained the 10 Commandments, Moses' staff, a jar of manna. Get that Ark of the Covenant and your worship team, and you go out in front. March around that city for 7 days, and then shout. The walls will come down. Can you picture being one of those defenders of Jericho, watching the army of Israel once a day, going out, blowing their trumpets, doing their worship song, their worship dance around that city? These guys must be thinking, what in the world is going on? Well, on that 7th day, they march all around, and they worship, and they shout. There is no expectation on anybody, except those with faith in the people of Israel, that God is going to do a miracle here. Verse 15, "And on the 7th day, they got up at daybreak. They marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on that day, they circled the city 7 times. And the 7th time around, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the people, 'Shout, for the Lord has given you the city.' The city and all that are in it are to be devoted to the Lord. We're going to learn about that tomorrow. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall be spared, if she hid the spies whom we sent. And so, verse 20. When the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the people gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. And so every man charged straight in, and they took the city. You see this, friends? They worshiped God with his presence in front of them, his word, his miracles, his provision in front of them, and they worshiped. And God brought down the walls of their enemy. Now, tomorrow on the Daily Six, we're going to read some of the tougher stuff here about God devoting that whole city to the Lord and the destruction that would ensue, and what that means for you and me. It's going to be pretty challenging next couple of days, Thursday and Friday. But before we get there, can you give God 6 more minutes? And can you visualize something that doesn't make a stitch of sense, that in the midst of our challenges and our struggles, that we would worship? Can you try that? Worship God for 6 more minutes. Contemplate the problems that are facing you in your life, the giants and the walls in front of you, and just worship. And see if in that space of worship, God might begin to soften your heart and show you his word, his miracles, his provisions go before you. And that, in fact, will be enough. Give God 6 more minutes, worship him. And come back tomorrow here on the Daily Six as we wrestle through a few challenging things, Thursday and Friday on the Daily Six. 6 more minutes. See you tomorrow.